Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony C. the person. Welcome to Tough Talking Thursday. Tough Talking Thursday here at Focus on Liberia is the program in which we talk on the issues concerning the nation's Liberia. The nation Liberia must move forward. We can emphasize that, gentlemen. I can't welcome you enough to Tough Talking Thursday. And as Dennis will say, we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Jimmy Eastman is comfortably seated and joining us from the nation's capital. Jimmy, how you doing? Jimmy seems not to be ready there. J. Victor Namwe, a progressive, a long-time progressive, by the way, we are well-versed with the issues is yet. Victor, how you doing?
Hey, Anthony, it's good to be here.
All right. Jimmy, are you here? All right, Jimmy must be frozen there. I don't know what's going on. We'll get back to Jimmy. Well, into this edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we are discussing the topic, assessing no business as usual on President Boakai. If you are not aware, President Joseph Yaman Boakai was very clear and so eloquent when he said there will be no business as usual on his watch as the chief executive of the nation, Liberia. And now that he has been in office for pretty close to 50 days now, we want to see whether this ugly thing called business as usual is surfacing in his government, because he said there will be no business as usual. We'll be looking at appointments, we'll be looking at the budget, we'll be looking at ethical or unethical behavior and practices. We'll be looking at the fight against corruption and many other things the president and his government have him back on to move the country forward, whether that ugly thing called business as usual showing face in these areas. We want to know. Victor is here to help us provide some clarity and understanding whether or not business as usual is surfacing. Jimmy Eastman will be joining us. He's here, by the way. It seems to be having some technical issue there. Victor, I mean, I can't welcome you enough. How you doing? What do you make of this topic? What you think? This is a very important topic to discuss.
Absolutely.
Assessing no business as usual on President Boakai.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Anthony. Quite honestly, this government's performance has left a lot of us really, really confused and scratching our heads. As you indicated, this president came in with the promise of no business as usual, but he has been everything but, and in some instances, even worse than business as usual. I was just reading one of the judges kind of summarizing the president's appointments. And I was, it took me really, I hadn't really looked at it that way, but I kind of took me aback. And he said that for every 10 persons this person has appointed, about 7 of those are from Lofa. That's 70%. You know, I know Lofa is if not one of these most populated counties in the country, but it doesn't have all of the qualified people in Liberia. And so this is one of the things that most of us rail against. We fought against nepotism, cronyism, favoritism. If you're going to take 70% of the appointees from one county out of 15 counties, I don't see what is not business as usual about that. If not even worse. We saw that under the American-Liberian leadership of Liberia. We fought against that. About 5 or so 4% of a section ruling the rest of the country. And we thought that was unfair and not just. We agitated against that. Of course, April 12th came along, even though the struggle was hijacked, but that was part of the protest against such domination by one sector of the country. And then Samuel Doe came in and did worse than the TWP government did in its 133 years. He came in for the little time he was there. Almost everything was for granted. And we also railed against that. We fought against that. He didn't like it, of course. We didn't take it lying down. The students were leading the struggle as well. We saw that from the university campuses. We saw that with Linsu. I was the vice president of Linsu at the time, and we told him we were not going to have it. And so Samuel Doe was removed by Charles Taylor. Unfortunately, again, Charles Taylor hijacked the process. He came in and brought in some cronyism, American Liberian domination of the government, and we're never gonna take it. So Charles Taylor is no more. So a couple of intervening, presidents, Julie Bryant, Ellen Johnson, Sally. But the problem has always remained with us. No matter whether it is George Weah who comes in and tells us we're not going to be spectators in our country, there must be something in the mansion. When these guys get into the mansion, they just do the reverse of what they are saying. They tell us, read my lips, and they come in there and their actions actually speak nothing but absolutely the opposite of what they're expressing. So this president is really confusing a lot of us. A lot of us believe he's one of us. He has come from within the struggle. He understands the plight of our people. He understands the struggle. He understands the domination by one sector of the country. And we expect him to do better, but we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that. And then coupled with all of these rookie errors, unforced errors, nobody seems to be in control. The appointment process is a joke. The person is appointing, was reading just this week how the final decision of who gets announced on the Senate floor rests with the president pro tem. How is that? And I haven't heard anything from the president. Where he sends his appointments to the Senate to be read on the floor and voted upon and confirmed, and the president pro tem and other rescue legislators take a pen to the paper and scratch off names that they don't want. Are you kidding me? So this is happening, and we just we're scratching our heads. We don't understand when this president is going to take seize of this situation. I mean, like you said, they're almost 2 months in, and we're still watching and waiting for him to turn this thing around, but we don't see any sign of it. So, we're really hoping that, soon enough, he's going to take seize of this situation and begin to lead like he should lead. But all we have seen so far is the opposite of what he promised us for the most part. He says one thing, he's doing something different. The budget comes in, the budget, you look in the budget is maiden budget. This is the budget that is supposed to announce what this person's intentions are for the next 6 years. But you can't tell from looking at the budget. There is absolutely no priority in the budget.
Mr. Namwe, we'll get to the budget. We want to really assess appointments of individuals in the government.
Right.
The president, said no business as usual. I really enjoyed the historical, piece you mentioned there. When the American Liberians dominated government, most of the appointments to government were, members of the American Liberians. Many people have frowned on that, and so they've said, well, this system was not fair to other citizens in the country. And fast forward, Doe came, and it was like, well, we see the Crown-Agnet people dominating the government.
Correct.
That contributed to people saying, well, this guy should not be in office. He was removed. And then George Weah came. Fast forward, people were like, look, the Southeast is dominating the government.
Yes.
Now we have Boakai who is saying, hey, there will be no business as usual. And now he is appointing individuals in government. My first question, what yardstick is being used here in considering who gets a government job? What yardstick is this president using, for example? I'm just curious. Do you know?
Yeah. It beats me too, Anthony. The yardstick the president should be using would be competence, yes. Patriotism, yes. I believe those are some of the 2 points, cardinal points you should be looking at. Is this person able to perform this job? How competent is this person? How patriotic is this person? Love of country. But some of the appointees in government haven't even served for 2 months yet. The scandals are already riddling this government. I mean, you open the newspapers, you read from one scandal to the other. You understand me? Even before he came into office, his Minister of State, who I know very well, Greg, was practically running a parallel government while they were in transition, hadn't even been settled in. There was a president in the mansion. George Manuel was still president, and the Minister of State, who was the advisor then, was writing agencies of government, soliciting funding to purchase vehicles and other things while they were still in transition. How does that happen? How does that happen? So they took some money from NASCO, we understand, and bought 5 vehicles when they had other options. There are lots of options always available. You understand me? But you can't do that. There is a sitting government in office. You cannot run a government parallel to the government that's already in office. So all of these scandals are going on, and I don't know if the president is aware, whether he's not aware. But I haven't heard him saying or doing anything that sounds to me like he's aware of what is going on and he's prepared to tackle these problems. We're reading payments from Local by an officer, just an officer in charge. This is an interim serving officer, and for the little time he's there, he wants to make payments of almost $1 million. It's like he's in a hurry to grab whatever he can before the real person comes to take over. So scandal after scandal after scandal is happening, and we don't see any indication that the president is prepared to tackle this problem. And so it makes you wonder whether Yaka Koluba doesn't have a point, that this president may not be capable to hold the office. Is that something we should be thinking about at this time? People are running rings around him, and he seems incapable or unwilling.
You are thinking whether or not the president now, then president-elect, may not have had knowledge when a communication came from the office of the president-elect, then written by now Minister of Presidential Affairs, Sylvester Grisby, who runs the government on Mr. Boakai's behalf, to NASCO, requesting the purchase of vehicles for the use of the transitional government or for the office of president-elect at the time. Are you suggesting that President-elect Boakai then did not know that Grisby had written a letter requesting vehicles for his use? Is that what you're suggesting?
Anthony, in deference to the president, I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he may not have been aware. But now that this news has broken, my concern is, what has he done to address the situation? We haven't heard a peep from him. Was he aware of it? Was he not aware? Did he okay this? Is he okay with this? Will he like that 5 years from now when he is, who knows what the elections result will be? When he is waiting for the next person to take over and the next person begin to run the government even before they are inaugurated, is he going to be happy with that? That is unlawful, and he shouldn't have allowed that to happen. But we have heard him say nothing about it. And so then we are to assume that, yes, he may have okayed this action. Otherwise, he would say or done something about it.
And Ms. Dambe, are you suggesting that this is egregious enough and it should warrant the president's attention to go further by taking action? Because this man wrote a letter using his name. I mean, he was his chief of staff, and he still is now, right?
Right.
And he acted in this manner by reaching out to another agency of government to procure cars for them. And it happened. Now that he's aware, and he's saying there will be no business as usual.
Right.
Does it warrant an action from the president, you think?
It warrants an action, a statement, a clarification from the president, because this undermines his administration, it undermines his credibility. He is one person who prides himself, from what I've heard, on doing the right thing, right? He prides himself on integrity. He prides himself on respect for the rule of law. Clearly, this is not as prescribed by the transition process, that while you're in waiting, your lieutenants are acting as though you're already in the executive mansion. He's aware of that. He was the vice president, so he's aware of this. So the news has been percolating for a while now, and we've heard nothing from him. This is something that should warrant his attention, because he is one person who I understand, believes in respecting the rule of law. I am certain if he were in the position of Dr. George Manuel, he would have frowned upon this if this had been done to him. Besides, it's illegal. So how is it that the news has come out 2-3 weeks now. He has said nothing about it. I am not necessarily calling for a removal of the Minister of State, but some kind of action is necessary.
And why not call for removal here, Mr. Number? You know, the evidence to this effect is clearly convincing. It's a letter, and the agency there, National Social Security and Welfare Corporation, is not denying that anything like that happened. There's the signature to that communication. It carries a graceful signature. He's yet to deny it. This is clearly business as usual, and the president is saying there will be no business as usual. Now we have business as usual right on his lap in his office here.
That's right. And so it is. I heard one of his officials explaining that the intention then was that this money that we're taking from NASCAR would have been kind of accommodated in the forthcoming budget, and they would have been reimbursed. Now, this is possible. I don't know. Like I said, the president has to come out and clarify what it is that what was the discussion before his advisor then, who is not a Minister of State, executed this action. If it is something that he is okay with, he needs to come out and clarify to us, tell us what the thinking was, why did this happen this way, and then I think we'll be comfortable. But without an explanation, with no action being taken, I think it leaves a lot of questioning. Why is it that it hasn't happened? Now, as to why the minister should still remain, I believe in second chances. I believe this is probably since they came into office, this is probably one of the most egregious acts that I've heard that the minister is allegedly may have committed. If he did, I believe, I believe a kind of reprimand is warranted in this instance, not necessarily a dismissal. I think he should be given a second chance. But notwithstanding, I think he should set it to the president that, look, this is not going to be business as usual. We're not going to do this old practices that we did before. We have to turn a new page.
Mr. Number is written, one who comes with equity must come with clean hands. This is it. So this is the president now who should be holding individuals accountable for the abuse of power, for public trust.
Right.
And the guy he's depending on to execute this no business as usual now is the guy who is caught like this. And if he cannot clean that up, who does he go after? And with what moral standing will he be going after any other individuals in the government?
I agree. I mean, I don't know what the prescription is for such an act. Personally, I'm suggesting that he be reprimanded. But if the law says that such an action warrants a dismissal, then the president has to be able to take the hard decisions and do the right thing. But what is not acceptable is the absolute silence that this matter has received since the news broke. He has said nothing. Minister Grisby has said nothing. The press secretary the entire government has said nothing about it. As if to say, you know what? Forget those fools. They will move on to the next story. I mean, this is how we're going to interpret their silence. And I think they should really say something, because this again portrays the business as usual attitude. And that is not what we were promised. That is not what we expect.
And what is disgusting about this thing to the greater extent, they were just in transition. They were not government yet. No. This was the office of the president-elect.
Exactly.
He has not, or they were not. They have not gotten the authority of government.
No.
All right. To be, writing institutions of government to comply to certain things.
And mind you,
there was CDC was in power at this time.
Exactly.
There was way before inauguration.
Yeah.
You were just president-elect.
Yeah.
And now you went to NASCAR, where we have funds for individuals who should be retiring, and you're taking their money.
Correct.
Did the certain government of CDC even know about this? I don't want to believe so.
I don't want to believe so. And mind you, they had a transition committee already running the show, right? Mm-hmm. They had a transition committee running the show.
That had a budget of 365,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. So that committee was there. Now it gives you reason to wonder about the duplicity in the appointments, right? So the donation was solicited by the then advisor, who is now Minister of State, from the director of NASCO, the Bahamas, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so the president has sent an appointee to NASCO to be removed, who is claiming that she has tenure, just as for Bahamas Day. This lady, Ms. Yeke, she resisted a hostile takeover. She has been fired. But Bahamas, whether he has been relieved or not, is unclear. But Councillor Cannon, Anthony Cannon, went to take his spot. Right. And yet the president appointed Bahamas as secretary to the board of NASCO. Only the sitting director, the managing director, should occupy that position. Right. Hence the duplicity that we don't understand. Are they trying to reward him because the president is aware of what he did while they were in transition? We don't know.
I think that's what's going on here, because even the Vermont's guy, upon whose instruction the deputy acted.
Yes.
There's no action against him except for this lady.
Except for the lady.
Yeah. So because she was on the phone with Vermont.
Yes. Yes, and she was acting on her budget.
I want to believe they had an agreement that we need to resist this because this is against the law, because we are tenure.
Yeah.
All right, and they can't do it this way. And now she's being removed and all kinds of language being used. And then the guy who is the boss is still there.
He's still there.
Now you are saying he's being appointed to what?
Yeah. He is on March 8th, I believe it was, the last batch of appointments the president announced. He was appointed secretary to the board of NASCO, and one of the managing director acts as secretary to the board. So that to me indicates that he's being retained.
He's retained. So
then what happened to Councillor Cannon, whom this lady resisted, for which he's been fired? Where is he?
He's left in the cold.
Exactly. So this poor lady is left to bear the consequence of this administration duplicity.
Now let's move to this serious criticism coming from a sitting judge. Blamont Dixon. Judge Blamont Dixon is not holding back in criticizing the new administration, the president in particular. Here is a Daily Observer News article, Liberia. Judge Dixon accuses Boakai of nepotism and tribalism. Yeah. So that is a major headline there. So what did the judge say? The judge is claiming, all right, judge claims that out of 14, claims that 14 out of every 20 appointments the president makes come from his native county of Lofa. The president, let's look at that. Claims, the judge claims that 14 out of every 20 appointments the president makes come from Lofa. And the president was on record that, look, they criticized the weird government, someone might argue rightfully so, that the government was predominantly, southeastern, right? That's most of the key position in government, ministerial positions, and directors were occupied by people from the southeast. Now, that was a whole region. We're talking about 5 counties here.
Correct.
And you think President Boakai, who also participated in the criticism against the government, rightfully so, would do far better, even with his promise that he will ensure that there will be a balance in his government, that all the countries will be considered, for top position in the government. And now the judge is saying, hey, 14 out of every 20% appointed come from Lofa, not even the region.
Not even the northern region, no.
Yeah, this is significant. What do you make of that?
It is really, like I said, I hadn't really looked at the appointments in our life, but it is really, it's an eye-opener. And again, first of all, this president, he came into office riding on a coalition, right? A coalition of other parties, not just individual, but other parties representing other regions. Now, you would think that consideration would be given to these other parties coming from this region. That's one aspect of it. 2, he is the president of the Republic of Liberia. He is not the president of Lofa. And so his appointment should be reflective of that. And when I read what this judge said, I was like, really? This is mind-boggling. Now we're talking about not business as usual. I don't know what is not business as usual about this, and I'm really going to take a keen look again at this appointment. I mean, I don't know everybody on that list, so it'll be difficult, but I'm sure this judge knows what he's talking about. Again, if they don't come back to debunk what the judge said, then we're going to take it as true. But that is puzzling. And not just the northern region, but this is one county we're talking about, Lofa, taking 70% of all the appointments so far. That's mind-boggling.
And I'm sure you might have remember Amara Conner, Senator Amara Conner now, also criticized from the very get-go that, hey, Mr. President, this is not what you promised us.
Absolutely.
From the way we see it now, you have, and he gave the percentages, and at the time, Lofa County was dominating everybody, far above all the counties, and he said,
right from the get-go.
This is not what you promised us. This. So the judge knows what he's talking. This is a legal man here. I don't think he's just talking from out of his head here.
I think he knows what he's talking, and it makes you wonder why people like Amara Coney have more or less gone silent. I think people are really surprised by what is happening. I was reading today that Yeke Koluba has left the reservation. He is now fed up with what is happening. He's now throwing a lot with the opposition. So I think a lot of people who really have been rooting for this president and this government are beginning to get really concerned. And a number of them. I mean, he has a lot of good people on the likes of Dillon. I listened to Dillon the other day, and he was very bold and honest about it. He said, yes, there are problems. This problem they need to work on. But yeah, they've been saying that now for almost 2 months now. I think it takes a lot of courage to admit that there are problems. But what is even more courageous is doing something about to correct the problems. I don't see that happening. I don't see that. It hasn't happened yet.
So this government also talk about experience. And one will think that some individuals appointed to government now will be people with the requisite experience to get the business done, to hit the ground running. And if you look at the appointments so far, I will admit they have experienced individuals, but we can also see that there are individuals they appointed who have no idea what to do on day one, and they were giving consideration in the first place. For example, you have a gentleman called Man Jabate, who was appointed, and this guy's supposed to be for what? Urban development somewhere at the Ministry of Internal Affairs.
Internal Affairs, I believe.
Yeah. So, and this guy is being appointed now, and there are other key areas in government the president is yet to give consideration to. Areas that will actually hit the ground running.
Yeah, it's I think on that point it's a mix of experience, and I think in some inexperienced people. I've heard that name being mentioned. I don't know Mike. I've listened to him on a number of occasions. I don't know him personally, but there are a lot of questions about his ability to perform in that post. There is also another mention of some inspector, I think, at the Lands Mines Ministry, who I understand may not have the requisite training and experience for that position. So there are a number of people in government who have never held any governmental experience. And so again, you want to ask the question, but when does one acquire experience? They got to start from somewhere. I agree. Mm-hmm. But usually you make them an understudy, right? And then they grow up through the ranks, but not in such a very high profile position from the get-go. That has the potential to cripple the government. And every smart manager knows to put people in the right places so that it makes them look good. Because when the team is functioning well, the head is made to look good. So that's one of the reasons why you want to make sure that you're matching talent with people so that it makes you look good.
And then we're looking at people because the president, one of the things he said when he was about to pick his vice president, he said, look, I will pick a vice president who represents my value, who shares my value, And so it's reason to believe that that will be the yardstick the president will be using for individuals he will be nominating the government. Because when you appoint somebody, that person is an extension of you as an executive, president, if I should say, for lack of a better word, as a chief executive. When you appoint somebody, you're saying, hey, this person is my extension. This person represents what I represent. We share the same value, and this person is ethical. One of the appointments that comes to mind is the Internal Affairs Minister. The Internal Affairs Minister is on record for saying, oh no, I'm an F rebel. I will mob somebody to death, and nothing will come out of it. The video came around. The president sat there and never, had to withdraw the nomination. The CDC, Joshua appointed one Tapla Davis, who threatened some Liberians that, he will kill them.
Yeah.
And he was denied confirmation just for that statement. But the president was right there when this thing happened. And the very senators who denied this man, on this threat could not deny humanity. Why would Boakai appoint such a man in the first place?
Right. And I know that at the time that appointment was announced, several voices were raised against that appointment. I really thought the president would have withdrawn that appointment, but he did not. And there's several other appointments. There is appointment of the superintendent of Grand Judah. I believe the allegation is that there were some academic improprieties charges against him, and the president. I don't think he has replaced that person, because in the last appointments that he made, I think an assistant superintendent for development has already been appointed. So to me, it sounds as though he is going to maintain him in that post. So all of these are happening, and I don't think the president is tone deaf. But again, how much is he aware of what is happening? I mean, there are stories upon stories of how the appointments are being manipulated, from the executive mansion straight through the Capitol building. So it makes you wonder. I understand there is also another battle going on at the Ministry of Health. One Esther Morris, I believe that I think is the president's choice, if I'm not mistaken. And someone else was placed in that position that he had intended her to occupy.
Yeah, former Representative Roger Doma.
Exactly.
And I think the latest report here from the latest appointment, by the way, that lady now has been appointed. That's the president's choice.
Exactly.
For that position. And so Roger Doma did not get that position. So they said the matter has been resolved. And, And so the judge also talked about the whole appointment process, that the president is appointing somebody and someone at the executive mansion or somewhere is removing the name. They have to recall this person because there's some blood on here and there. And, so this people are saying this is business as usual. This is not what the president promised.
And let's not forget that, Anthony, maybe about a month or so ago, there was an announcement purportedly from the executive mansion or from the president, right? Designating some of the senators as the vetting committee for the appointments, right? And people had to tell him, no, you can't do this, because they can't be the judge and the jury at the same time. If they are going to supervise or conduct the hearing for these people, they cannot be the same ones who will be nominating these people. So, but it looks as though these people are actually still playing these roles that the president actually, delegated to them. Otherwise, what we read in the Front Page Africa recently shocked me, that the president will send a list of appointees, especially some of the people on that list were auditors, because his president right now is pushing for audits. And so apparently there were some very professional accountants on this list who were removed when the list got into the Capitol building. And so the final list, I think there were 7 names that went in. I think only 4 or 3 names came out. The rest of the names, what happened to them? We haven't heard anything.
Well, folks in cyberspace, if you are still joining us, the program you are watching is Tough Talking Thursday, and we are assessing the no business as usual call for by the president on his watch. President Boakai said there will be no business as usual. So we are assessing that call for no business as usual under his stewardship whether business as usual is taking place instead of no business as usual. One of the things we want to look at now is the budget. The budget is a key instrument when it comes to governance. The government, the budget is almost like the engine of the government. That is the blood of the government, because without the budget, the government dies. I mean, no money. And so the budget also tells us the government priorities, what the government is focusing on. And so talking about the budget, there is a serious criticism here that came from the Movement for Progressive Change political leader, Simeon Freeman. He slammed the budget, that this budget is no different from previous budget. In other words, he's saying, hey, this is completely business as usual. So talking about the budget, we got some numbers here to share with you. A significant portion, constituting 92.5% of the budget, has been allocated towards debt servicing and government salaries, leaving limited resources for initiatives directly benefiting the population. Now, that also means that the total expenditure envelope is divided into two main categories: recurring expenses, which is 670.52 million, all right, which account for 92.5% of total expenditure. Now, total spending on public sector investment programs is 51.89 million, accounting for 7.5% of total expenditure. What that means is, Mr. Nama, the entire budget, 92% is there to pay debt and pay government salaries and make sure they get your cars, grease the engine of your cars. And then just 7.5% is intended for the Liberian people, to invest into improving the material conditions of our people. Right. 7.5%, and the total is 59.8 million, and 640 million for government bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So, people, hold on, Mr. Name, others are saying that this budget is a good start for the government. In fact, if you look at previous budget, the recurring expenses and services of debt has never reached to 92 million. 92%. This is the first time recurring expenses and services of debt, amounts to 92%. And now we have just 7.5%. And the other thing I want to mention here, Mr. Namwe, before you come in, is that counter development funds. We're talking about no business as usual here. All right. When it comes to counter development funds, 0.2 million is proposed as county development fund, CDF, for each county, totaling 3.0 million. Now, they have a chart here, Mr. Namwe, that I want our viewers to see. And here is the chart. Let me remove this one here first. Here is the chart. Since early time, when they came up with the county development funds, it has been 200,000 for each county. 200,000. It has not changed. So when the government is talking about no business as usual, I would think they would change that. Probably they will raise it to something about $500,000 for each county for county development funds. If you see the county, the column that followed that, that's the 200,000 for each county. That is how it has been. Now, SDF appropriation is the social development funds. I mean, there's some kind of, concession activities going in your county, then you get some funds. Then they have something that they call CSC. I believe that is County Services Center, something like that. All right. I think it should be County Services Center. Then they allotted $13,000 for each county, as though that is anything for each of our county. Now, this is why you see now nothing goes on in these counties, because practically peanuts being given to our people year after year, government after government. Mr. Namwe, is this not business as usual?
It looks like business as usual. First of all, I am from Maryland County. I know Maryland is one of the smallest counties in Liberia. All of the counties are not equal. So first, I don't understand why they're all getting the same amount. That's 1.2. What is $200,000 going to do for a county? You know, some of these counties they're in so much need. I mean, you're probably in some of the associations here in the states that we are all a part of. These associations are working overtime trying to help the people. Some are doing wells here, some are doing this and doing that because the counties have been left completely abandoned. And I understand for a very long time under Mrs. Johnson Sirleaf's government, this money was never disbursed. And even when President Weah came in, it is in the budget, but they never received that money. So now take that and juxtapose that on 93%, 92.5% going to recurrent expenditure. You know, I was over the week we're hearing all these stories about, you know, the government depreciating car by 33 to 40% every year, and so every other year or so, or 3 years or so, they have to buy brand new cars. You wonder why that is, because all the money is going into maintaining all this plush, you know, out of this world lifestyle by government officials, you know, and they leave the rest of the country abandoned. $200,000 for a county for a fiscal year. I mean, what can it really do? You know, I sometime back, I think when Senator Blama Nelson and others were at the Internal Affairs, this decentralization, I think they were talking about revenue sharing and all of that, so that each of the counties will be able to retain a certain portion of the revenue raised. I think that's something they need to look into. You know, some of the counties that are lucky to have, you know, concession in those counties, they're getting additional. You know, I think that's where the social development fund is coming from. But some of the counties don't have any of those. You know, so they help. You know, it's not being distributed. You know, with equity. You know, all the counties are. You can't give everybody the same thing. Equality is not the same as equity. Some of the counties are by far bigger than other counties. The needs are enormous, more enormous than in other counties. So taking everybody and just giving them $200,000, I think it's unfair. That's not equity.
It's a number. It is totally unfair. And if you look at the total being allocated for all our counties to improve services, to improve infrastructure, you know, and improve the lives of our people in the counties, the total amount is 9.6 million. That is the total for all the counties combined. And if you square that with what the president is getting, the office of the president, you know, or the Ministry of Presidential Affairs, I don't see how the Ministry of Presidential Affairs gets more money than all the 15 counties
combined.
You know, so when I see people say, oh, you know, President Boakai has significantly reduced the budget of the Ministry of Presidential Affairs, I get it. But if you compare that with all the counties combined, you see that this is not fair to our people at all. You know, I don't see how they improve life in the counties, Mr. Namwe. Another thing I want us to come to now is this whole issue of you know, legislative interferences and inducement of lawmakers. It has been a business done by previous government. They accused President Weah of doing so. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was involved with that. You heard about this famous saying, brown envelopes and so on and so forth. And people see that to be business as usual. So we have been of the hope that now that the president has called for no business as usual, this is not something we're going to see. You heard Yeke Koluba reason it, saying that you know, money came from the executive mansion and being given to lawmakers for the removal of the speaker. All right. And even prior to that, before the election of the speaker, again, it was alleged that money came from the office of the president. At first, they said $25,000, and then they reduced it to $5,000 for lawmakers so that they will vote the president's choice for speaker. And so, Mr. Namwe, if you look at all this, are we on the trajectory for no business as usual or business as usual continues here?
It's difficult to call this no business as usual, Mr. C. I was reading the stories too of some of the allegations by Yeke Koluba, Representative Koluba. But there are other people who are coming out and confirming what he's alleging. The whole $4,500 voucher, you know, issue out to this business person. That's another story, who is not a Liberian business, you know. But yeah, the money seems to have emanated from the executive mansion, and not from GSA. We should have been the right agency. And even for what reason in the first place? For what? These people are already drowning in money in the legislature. Why are you giving them more money? But yeah, Yek is alleging that there is tampering and apparent interference in the speaker position at the Capitol building, that the executive mansion is trying to remove Funati Kofa as speaker from the from his position, and that is interference. But then again, it goes both ways, because the legislature themselves, they seem to be interfering in executive functions. I read over the couple of days, they invited the LRA director, I believe, who was trying to remove the duty-free privilege, and they threatened him with court action, with detention. That is interference as well. So you wonder really who is going to rise up to do the right thing for us. But yes, they're both tampering with each other and interfering with each other. But I think the executive mansion is guilty of much more interference as compared to the Capitol building.
If you look at investigations, the previous government was criticized very heavily for not conducting and concluding a serious investigation that it had announced, into serious things that happen in the country. For example, the auditors issue, the missing boys, the 16. We criticized the previous government that those investigations were not serious, they were not conclusive. Nothing came out of those investigations, so it became business as usual. It has always been like, once an investigation is announced, a committee is constituted to do the investigation. That is the end of it.
Right.
All right. Either you don't hear about a report, or you hear about a report and those action or the recommendations are not acted upon. So we want to see now whether this is gradually showing face, in this government, taking investigations, following, through on the recommendation thereof. So let's talk about a series of investigations here. There was this a terrorist attack at the Unity Party's headquarters when they were celebrating the victory of Joseph Boakai. Someone ran in the crowd that led to wounding several individuals. And I don't know where we are with that investigation. The Unity Party was in charge of that. And so many investigations. Where are we? Are we seeing business as usual? Should we expect to see investigation coming to logical conclusion and then the recommendations being acted upon, or this going to be business as usual?
Yeah, really, there are lots of investigations that are outstanding. The one you mentioned, we haven't heard anything about it. There is the Armed Forces disturbance report that the president promised was going to be out in 2 weeks. There are rumors that the report may be out in the executive corridors, but the public is unaware of that. Then there are all these outstanding audit reports. The transition committee report, we haven't heard anything about that. The $365,000. There's so many investigations. We haven't heard anything from the B Martin disturbance and the subsequent death of Liberians in bombing, and then of course the LEC light situation in Caldwell. So you have all of these investigations are outstanding, and no one seems to be saying anything about it. I mean, I think it is prudent to set a date on an investigation and come back and tell us, look, we did intend to come back to you in 1 month or in 2 weeks, and we realize the time has elapsed, but the report is not ready yet. I think we will buy that. But the setting a deadline and the deadline coming and passing and saying nothing about it at all, either you tell us you have absolute disregard for our expectation and our ability to know what is happening, or you're just being incompetent, or both. But yeah, all of these reports are outstanding and we're not getting anything. So again, how is that different from business as usual? How is it different from the way things were done? We rail against the past government for so many reports. I mean, you name them, the auditors, all kinds of reports, the bank employees, all of these reports, they were always, forthcoming. We got nothing. And so when this president came in and said there would be, no business as usual, we expected an entirely different kind of thing. But we're on the same track as the previous government. Outstanding reports upon reports upon reports. No head, no tail.
All right, we just been joined by Ja Blamo. That is Ja Nimna Blamo. I understand he's a son of Sastan. He's just joining us. He's just a progressive guy as well. Unmute yourself, Dad. Mr. Blamo, thanks for joining us. How you doing? Welcome to Talk Talking Thursday.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be on this show. Thank you very much.
Have we constituted a Southeastern cartel on the show tonight?
Well, I don't think that is the case. We invited everybody. Maybe not. Maybe it's obvious now. The other individuals are busy and they can't make it today. Probably because they know that when it comes to tough talking Thursday, I'm always tough. And they can't stand my toughness. So maybe they have affinity for Boakai, so they chose to stay away because. When it comes to accountability, I don't compromise. We have to do this for our people. Mr. Blamo, we are talking about no business as usual. We are assessing this no business as usual mantra. Comrade Boakai promised the nation that there will be no business as usual under my stewardship as the chief executive of this nation. So when we look at appointments, do you see business as usual or not? Though they said, how all the crown people in his government, and then we had to say, well, Southeasterners dominated the government, and during the days of the Americo-Liberian dominance in the government, they dominated the government. You know it. And Boakai is saying, I will change that, and he promised that, look, in fact, every ethnic group will be visible in my government in a geographically balanced faction. And even Amara Conan, who endorsed and campaigned for him, said, Mr. President, you are missing the mark. This is what now you said. And your own brother, Judge Adio Blamon Dixon, is saying, no, 14 out of every 20 person the president appoints comes from Lofa. Your take, is this business as usual or not?
Well, it's unfortunate that perception is reality, and there's a general perception that this looks like business as usual. But however, we have to give this president, we have to show a little bit of optimism, because sometimes I think we are asking the wrong question. Because dividing the government positions by tribe or by counties, that could also be problematic. So it's clear that there's a one-sidedness going on. But my take on it is that the whole idea of equal distribution of jobs is a fantasy. People make these promises, but in reality, it's difficult to implement because a president has to get the staff that he's comfortable with. You can't just get a array of staff. It's not an interim government where you create a balance. But however, he did make the promise, so there is merit in calling for it. But I think the whole concept of equal distribution of government jobs is not the right direction. So whether this president is in line with that, or he's just not fulfilling his promise, is something different. But I want to believe the president.
So are you suggesting that is not achievable at all?
I believe that it's not only not achievable, but it's not reasonable, and it's not the right direction for the country. Because
and why you think it is not achievable?
Because and people, there's no way you can divide the positions of a sitting president among all the counties and still expect that president to derive some comfort level with his staff. You might have a foreign minister sent that he's not comfortable with. You might have a finance minister sent from somewhere that he can't deal with. So it's in a way creating a kind of a difficult situation for a president who so much is expected of him. But the problem with this president is he is not speaking, he has no voice. So people are left to interpret his actions. And I think that is a more serious problem than just the fact that the distribution of jobs is one-sided.
This is a premise, excuse me here, this is a premise that was made by the president. Are you suggesting he did not put thought in it? Mind you now, President Boakai now has been in government for several decades, right? A few decades. So I would think that he put some thoughts in it, and the party, Unity Party he's from, has people from all the counties. And so I would want to believe he put some thought in it. He felt that, well, I can get somebody from Grand Creek who will be a minister. I can get somebody from each county who can be a minister or director somewhere. And it was on that basis he made that promise. And for you to say that it's not achievable, I don't know. You have to really tell me why you think so.
The president is a human being. He probably made a second level assessment and recognized that this clear distribution on the basis of county is not going to create the kind of effectiveness that he needs. The problem is he's not explaining what he's doing, and that is leaving the country to interpret things based on individual perception. But I think Joe Boakai looked at the situation and recognized that it's not practical, it's not effective. But how is he presenting that? Whether there's a closed door discussion or there is a crack in the UP organization itself, where there are two different groups. One is pushing for the equal distribution, another one is saying, Mr. President, this equal distribution is not going to help us. So I'm going to explain this thing now.
Mr. Boakai's party, Mr. Blamo, Mr. Boakai's party criticized the WIA administration that the government that the CDC ran was dominated by Southeasterners, and they were coming to change that, right? And what we're seeing now, Josh Dixon is saying, this government now is not even dominated by the region in the north. It's dominated by the county. 14 out of every 20 appointments come from just one lofa, his own county. I would think President Boakai had come to change this, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, I acknowledge that there's merit in what Mr. Nambo is saying. But what I'm saying is that wise men changes. I believe that the president.
And is this wise man changing for the better or for the worse? Because you are saying that, well, he has realized that this is not doable. He may not get the kind of cabinet he wants, if he decides to stick to what he had promised, then he will not get. So is he changing for the better or is he changing for the worse? Is he eating his own words yet?
Well, I wouldn't use the word eating the words, but the president makes changes based on if he sees that things will be better. So on that assumption, I believe that the president thinks that he can get a much more effective cabinet by going the direction he's going. So
by getting more people from LOFA, are you suggesting that by getting more people from LOFA in government will make his government effective? Is that what I'm hearing?
The level of cooperation for people he's comfortable with will be higher. Whether is in reality effective is an individual thing. But right now, I have to believe the president thinks he's doing the right thing. So
he thinks he's doing the right thing, but what do you think? Do you think he's doing the right thing?
No, I believe that the whole concept of even promising that we're not even sure he will interpret his words, whether the promise he made was that he would divide the government equally across the county, or they will have representation in his government. Are two different things. But it's being interpreted like he will divide it equally. But if he's saying representation, All he has to do is to get one person from the county and proceed for his county. He can justify that as equal as representation. But my thing is, the whole idea is wrong. It does not address public policy effectiveness. When the whole basis of me getting people for my government is based on where they are coming from.
All right. Thank you.
In the interim government, it works. But in the government with this level of responsibility, we are looking for effectiveness. And the president game plan is what you draw the kind of people he wants.
Thank you.
But at this point, I don't know if there's a rescue mission or an arrest program. We don't know about the 100 days. So until the president speaks out and articulate his vision for the country, then everything will fall in place. And that's why I'm saying the president is not talking. That is a major problem. He needs to articulate his policies. There may be people will see the logic of what he's doing. Because right now, the national agenda, the national discussion is who is getting appointment next, how many counties the people are coming from. And that prevails because the government is not creating news. The government is not providing information for consumption. So the people are finding information at will.
Thank you, Mr. Blamo. Just Victor Namwe, I think you heard your colleague there.
Yes.
Do you agree with him anywhere, or do you have any disagreement?
I like his tenacity, to try to explain the unexplainable. Look, if the president's pretext is that he wants competence and efficiency, then he's getting a negative return on the investment because he has appointed 70% of his appointees coming from LOFA. Are we getting the desired results? I mean, you say he's not, articulating it, but you know what they say, action speaks louder. Even if he's not articulating it and we're getting the results, he doesn't need to come to explain anything to us. We will see it. So he's making a bad investment and it's getting him nothing, and it's getting him also a bad rap. Now, as to the appointments in government, there is a law that requires proportional representation. The president is disproportionately appointing people from LOFA, and that is a concern. That's not what the law says. The appointments he's making, yes, all of the counties are not equal, but the appointments to be proportional to the size of the county. That's not what we are seeing. You can't have out of 15 counties, one county taking 70% of the appointments. That's disproportionate. So I think if the president, that is why the law gives him the right to appoint and relieve, because when you are appointed, you serve at the pleasure of the president. I think as a manager, you always want to go out on a limb to give an employee or a personnel the opportunity to try. If the concern is that he wants to appoint people he trusts who will deliver, he can try someone out and he can always remove them if they're not performing. But I think you should broaden the appointment circle. You should bring other people in there. A lot of people who are very competent out there. You can't tell me 70% of the Liberian population, that 70% of competence is from LOFA. That cannot be the argument. There are a lot of qualified people in Bone, a lot of qualified people in Nema, a lot of qualified people in Sino, in Maryland, in Grand G. So he needs to broaden the circle. So I think that argument, to me, if that is the pretext, the results are out there for all of us to judge. I don't think he's getting the desired results.
And Mr. Blamo, I will give you the opportunity on another issue you missed that we discussed earlier, and that is the budget. This is the first budget for the new president now, and we are looking at the budgets to see whether this is not business as usual. 92.5% of the budget is on recurring expenses and the servicing of debt. That is 640 million. The only thing left is 51.8 million. And that is the one now that is being used to invest in the welfare of the Liberian people. And what has been done by previous government before this government is just allotting $200,000 for county development funds. This Boakai government that promised no business as usual doubles down, about doing the same by giving 200,000 United States dollars for the development of our counties. If you look at the entire budget, the way they allocate the money, do you see, more of the same business as usual, or a departure, or no business as usual?
Well, it's obvious that the government budget is following the path of business as usual. It's obvious that there is no. The president promised that you got to start thinking out of the box. And I don't see a lot of creative thinking there. But in the absence, since I'm absent out of the Budgetary Bureau, and I have now had dialogue with the president, I hesitate to judge why he made that decision. But from looking at the decision, it looks like business as usual. However, the budget is also a political animal. We don't know the challenges the president faced in presenting that budget. That budget was sent back, from what I heard, maybe once or twice. So all this time, the delay of that budget, people are not getting paid. So the president must be under some pressure to push the budget forward, to give himself a recess, to reassess, and then come forward with modification and a different kind of budget that reflect his new agenda. But I think he's pushed into this budget. But definitely the budget looks like business as usual. However, we need to consider the creating an effective local government of some kind. Because all the budgets that these presidents are following are the 1847 budget, doing the same thing, Morovia Center, massive welfare bureaucracy. And as long as we are funding this huge bureaucracy, there will be no space for creativeness. There will be no space for real development. $200,000 is nothing for the county. So it will look like business as usual. The problem is there a political will for change in Liberia? If the president were to take money out of salaries, who would make that sacrifice? That would be another protest. If the president delay people pay, that's another a political concern. So the president is in the tight spot to continue to support the system, to keep everything normal, and then find a way to somehow develop some extra strategy to implement the programs he has in mind. And that's a tough one. And then he does not have the legislative support. He doesn't control the legislature. They have their own agenda as well.
Well, so Mr. Blanco, the president is getting everything he wants now. Whoever he sends to the legislature for confirmation gets confirmed, even including individuals with questionable character, that like the Minister of Internal Affairs. This guy said, "Look, I'm an F rebel. I will mob somebody to death." Nothing. I mean, the president appointed this guy. There was noise like, hey, bring this guy back. We record this guy. He never did. That guy got confirmed. Now he is the face of our local government right now as we speak.
Yeah, but that's just one aspect of it. The legislature have decided to support this president by allowing him to have the people he recommends. For the legislature, it's not going to hand this president everything on the plate, especially when it comes to money. You can see what's going on now.
The first budget he sent, he has sent to the legislature to avoid a government shutdown. They pass it in no time, so he's getting what he wants.
No, that was a matter of emergency. That was urgency. But when he went back to the table, what is he going to cut? You see, what are you going to cut? Our budget is so bad that it eats up reoccurring expenses.
Mr. Blambo, I see you making excuses here. This is the president with so much experience, who have lived government. I'll put it that way. Because this man was like born in government and lived there and grew up there, and now he's an elder. And he's saying there will be no business as usual. It is obvious he counted the cost. He knew what he was saying. He's been in the government for so long. All right. So for you to be sitting here now, well, he has to get in there. He has to follow, the same thing people been doing, and then he will figure out what to do. I mean, I don't know.
The president has to sell the message. He has to sell the vision. He got to get a buy-in from the people. Then he can make real budgetary decisions.
And how much time you think he needs to do so?
Well, I think he's too slow on that. I'm surprised that all these brilliant people that he appointed, that they are not jumping on the wagon band to sell the president ideas, because he's not going to get any support if he goes into that budget and make a huge change in it, and people start suffering. It will not work. So he has to sell the message. He has to sell the vision. He has to create a coalition for this vision and sell the message. Then together, they can make these big differences in the budgetary. But right now, he has to carry that budget.
So
he has to carry that budget right now. Yeah.
Let me ask this, bro Blambo.
Yeah.
So here are a few things that I think this government could do to save us some money. First of all, I don't think he needs to cast the entire 12 months budget at once. He can do it by quarters. That will give him time to study some of the stuff that you're talking about and figure out where he can do the savings, whether it is by taking a closer look at the personnel, as Josiah Jokai is not doing at the civil service, right? There are so many names that I think he's picking up on the list that could be eliminated. But I think those names are already captured for the next 12 months. So he could save a lot of money there. This president can tell the legislature that you are not entitled to duty-free anymore. Why are they getting duty-free? These people are already drowning in money. He doesn't want to do that. That has not been done, right? He announced that he's going to audit some of these agencies, including the NSA. The NSA, everybody knows, is a cash cow for the president. So apparently somebody told him, my friend, this is where your chopping is going to come from. So now he has decommissioned that audit. There are a lot of things that this president could do that could save him money. But I don't think he's doing them. And so I hear you trying to argue that. I understand he's just coming, it's difficult. But look, this president was told he will be president since November 14th. It's been over 4 months. How long is it going to take for him to learn this government that he's already been in as vice president for 12 years? Boeman Kamara was the minister on Ellen Johnson, sorry, for Christ's sake. So it's like a homecoming for him. So what is it? What are the excuses we're making? So, I like to make excuses when they are necessary, but I think we should, and don't get me wrong, I really want this government to do well. But I am not going to sugarcoat it for them. And I would tell it like it is. If they are doing right, I would tell them. I have said, I think the president's decision to stand up the War and Economic Crime Court is a good decision. It's a risky decision, but I think it's a good decision. The asset recovery, if it is done right, is a good decision. You understand me? But then there are a lot of little things that they could do to enhance their performance. They're not doing them. Like what I just said. Why can't he cast the budget 3 months at a time? Every quarter, review the budget and get the legislature to approve 3 months budget. and get in there and do the cuts that are necessary. I understand there were 98 names that were found on the National Police list. 98 names.
98 names.
You know how much that is going to cost the government? And those people are already captured in the budget. That's part of the 92.5% of the budget that is being eaten away. That is why this president doesn't have enough money to invest in things that will save the government money and produce growth. So there's a lot of things he can do, but I don't think they're willing to do them, or they're unprepared. I don't know what it is, but I just want to put it out there. There are a lot of options that are available to him as president. He is the president that he has a lot of flexibility. Let's not out there say he's wearing a straight jacket. He can't do that. No, there are a lot of things he can do. Why is it they want to buy cars every 3 years? Why? The GSA has a whole garage there. They got mechanics in there. They can't repair their cars. And you can put an announcement. If your car depreciates to an unacceptable level, you'll be charged to repair it yourself. Because they understand the pretext is that people driving government car, they intentionally jump in pothole and all that. They don't give it. Yeah, if I assign a car to you, it's for you for 3 years. No matter how you treat it, that is your car. And after the first year, if it is assessed and found to sustain more damage than is necessary, they will take it from your money. Why are we buying cars every 3 years?
Thank you, Mr. Nambwe. Thank you. And again, folks who are following the discussion here, I want to remind you this is Tough Talking Thursday, and we are discussing the topic, assessing no business as usual on President Boakai. President Boakai said there will be no business as usual on his wife as the chief executive of the nation. To participate in the discussion, the phone number is on the screen. It's been posted in the live feed, both on Facebook and YouTube. The number is 605-313-6004. Don't hesitate to enter the code 791403#, and you will be given the opportunity to participate in this discussion. Gentlemen, this is the final segment of the show. When Charles Taylor came, at least I could understand a thing about government then. The mantra was above all else, the people. And when I read that, I said, wow, this guy's going to do so much good. The people will be above all else. The people will be the priority. In no time, the people could not take pay sometime for 6 months. You know what's like? They were taking pay just 2 months or twice in a year, Mr. Blamo. The people were being brutalized by ATU. That's why we saw horror in the country, tyranny coming from Charles Taylor, being perpetrated against his people, as to why he did when he was rebel leader was not enough. And yet, the slogan was, above all else, the people, and the people were being suffocated in terms of governance under Charles Taylor. That passed. I don't know what was Ellen's mantra, so I will leave that. We came, and he said, pro-poor, that everything we'll do will be for the poor people. We will be for their upliftment, improving their material conditions. I don't know. The Liberian people can tell us how they fell on a wheel. And now we have a new mantra, rescue mission. My question is this rescue mission not another business as usual, as was the case with Taylor, above all as the people, and we are, pro-poor agenda for prosperity and the development of the people. This rescue mission, is it not another business as usual? Mr. Blamo, you get us started here. You think this rescue mission here is intended for the people, and will we be rescued here?
I think the rescue mission is subject to individual interpretation. And the president, they didn't do a good job in selling the idea. His vision for the country in terms of rescuing the country is now well articulated. However, the president is making effort. The president is taking steps. And Mr. Namba mentioned they found 90-something names of people on the police payroll.
98.
How did they find out?
Those names.
98.
Mm-hmm.
The president is getting there. And the seizing of government cars The president is getting there because from there, new decisions will be made that might be linked to what Mr. Namwe is saying. So the president is getting there. The problem with the rescue mission was that it was over. It was presented not with a good detail. So the people are in the process of
Mr. Nami,
to,
let me push back. You say it was not explained. To the credit of the Unity Party, they have their plan. Their plan is on the website, joeboakai.com. Look it up. They explain in detail what they would do when it comes to agriculture. In fact, there's an acronym for their plan. Arrest. They have come to arrest the situation in the country. That's agriculture, rule of law, they talk about sanitation, they talk about tourism. They explain all of these things. So for you to say, and they went further by even coming up with their 100 days deliverable, which remains a draft, by the way. That's another thing that Mr. Nambo will have to comment on. So when you say they have not explained, they've explained in detail what they would do. They have explanation in their arrest plan. They have explanation also in the 100 days deliverable. So what you mean that they didn't explain it well? What kind of explanation we need?
Despite how that plan look, is too generalized. That plan is the same as a plan that you can implement in 12 years. So the plan is not precise enough. And so the adjustments is what is being made now. So let's say
the plan is precise, is to your liking, is now the way you want it. How does that solve the problem?
Well, adjustments. The plan is elaborate. So adjustments are being made and then explanations will follow. My suggestion to the government is to do it faster. Because the longer you wait, the more people have chance to interpret and misinterpret and get discouraged. But that plan definitely needs a little bit to be curtailed a little bit. It needs to be a little bit more precise. The 100-day plan is as big as a 3-year plan. And the whole arrest plan, you can implement that plan in 8 years. So their adjustment is what is being discussed. And it's better to do the modification and then sell it to the public and explain to them than to pretend that the plan is what we carry out and then 100 days go by and 1 year go by because you are leaving too much to the citizen to interpret. You have to have people explaining these things to the public. That's how you get public.
Mr. Blummer, is this about interpretation, explanation, or is it about implementation and getting the result for our people? What do you think this is about?
Implementation is only possible when you have a blueprint. If your blueprint is too elaborate, you're not going to implement that blueprint just because you have to implement the blueprint. To be reasonable, you got to make the adjustment. If you drew a mansion and what you need is a house, you can't say, well, let's start building the mansion. So that people will see, no, you adjust the plan to a house, then you build it. So in that process, the government needs to articulate.
So are you suggesting we should give the government a chance now to articulate their plan, and how much time can we give them? And why you want to keep in mind here, Mr. Blambo, this is a rescue mission. We are being distressed. We need an immediate action taken to rescue us from a distress situation. And you are saying, let's give them time to find their boots. Let's give them time to set their rescue operation into motion. We are dying here, isn't it?
No. See, I think you took my words too far.
I'm asking questions,
I don't believe that lowering the expectation, that message, I know Amara Corner brought that message up. I think that was a wrong move. My message is you have to say, you have to articulate what the plan is. You have to tell the people if you're making adjustments. You have to say what you're doing. The government is too quiet. The people are not going to give this government 2-3 years. They're not going to wait. There will be no patience. There will be no lower expectation. And the more time this government take to explain something, the bigger the problem will be. This government got a lot of work to do. They need to start talking. They need to communicate. I mean, look at Torbo. When Torbo was brought total involvement, what village you can go to in Liberia that a little child didn't know what total involvement was? The man was a communicator. And it doesn't matter whether the low car gets stuck in the mud. It doesn't matter whether everybody get paid every 2 weeks. What matters is the people want to know. If you're eating dry rice, you need to know why you're eating the dry rice, and there need to be hope that tomorrow you will have soup. But you're eating dry rice, and you don't even know what will happen tomorrow and day after tomorrow and next week. The frustration alone will multiply your stress. So the government needs to sell the vision of this president.
Thank you. Mr. Nambo, it seems to be our brother Blamo here is trying to intellectualize this whole governance issue. Well, let him be an orator, let him motivate the people so they will know why they need arrest and grievance coming. What's your take on what Mr. Blamo is saying?
One of the most experienced presidents in history.
So I think the problem is not the lack of explanation. I think the problem is what is there to explain. I mean, first of all, you have to explain what it is that you're doing. What is there that they have to explain to us that they're doing? Yes, you talk about an elaborate plan, but this is why the plan is usually broken down into short-term, mid, to long-term, right? So they gave us a 100-day plan, a 100-day roadmap. And this is what we've been focusing on for the most part when we come here. Nobody's been talking about 6 months, 12 months down the road. So the roadmap that it gave us for 100 days is what we're looking at, and juxtaposing that on what they're doing. And we're coming up with a conclusion that nothing on the map so far has been tackled. So they came with the mantra of rescue and arrest, right? Two words that suggest an emergency, right? You're coming to arrest an unacceptable or an emergency and bring relief, right? And so we have been asking, well, where is the urgency? Because when you're coming to rescue someone, there is an emergency and you're coming to bring relief, immediate relief. So where is it? I mean, let's look at agency by agency, if we will. LPRC, we know in Liberia, everything hinges on transportation, gasoline. When gasoline price goes up, everything goes up. So the MD reduced the price of gasoline, I think, by 5 cents or 4 cents or whatever it was. What was the impact there? I think recently we're hearing 20 cents or whatever it is. What was the impact? So the Minister of Commerce, I think he reduced the price of rice by some 25 cents or so. Minimalist, right? Minimalist. So now the budget comes out, and even the executive manager, the president, says being minimalist on the budget. What are the priorities in the budget that would tell us where this president's focus is? He's an agriculturist, I believe, from LPMC and down the line. What is in there for agriculture? What is in there? I think 0.7% or even less. That's what is in there for agriculture. So what are they telling us? And this is the budget that is supposed to make a statement to us as to where this president intends to take us for the next 6 years, right? I don't think you can look at that budget and tell me what this president's direction is. What is his philosophy? The budget is supposed to tell us that. It's not telling us. It's not. So, we're looking at them within the first 100 days, I mean, some of the president's supporters, this is not my own word. One of his own supporters, I heard him calling this, instead of rescue, it's a miscue. You know, we have you're laughing. We have right. We have the budget. That is a problem. The whole government is sucked into this whole appointment thing. This appointment thing is consuming the government. You know, the entire government is almost defined by appointments. How many people get removed from the list? How many people get sent to two different jobs? Or how many jobs 2 to 3 people have been appointed to? Well, who is keeping track of these appointments? You know, so the work, instead of getting the work done for almost 60 days now in active office, not to mention the time that they were in transition, and you know, they say they were in transition, but they were purchasing vehicles, so which means they knew they had to do some stuff, but they did nothing. So, but we're gonna start at the 22nd of January. It's been over 60 days. What can we say that has been relieved of our people besides the fight over jobs? You know, well, yeah, the president brought HPX, but what is the re-out on HPS? When are they going to do
HPS
that?
has been here. The fact is, HPS has been here.
Exactly.
All right. HPS has been here. HPS is not new to Liberia. HPS was here when we had the CDC government, right? So the idea that the president brought HPS is not a fact. And Mr. Blamo, this government, the president articulated the issue of the Local Government Act. We have to empower our local government. We're talking decentralization here. The budget tells you the government priority, right? Now, this is a proposal, and when someone is proposing something, you actually see the ambition of the person. All right. So this is US 0.2 million that is being proposed for county development funds. We're talking about all our counties here. County development fund total is just $3 million. Now, let me show you another thing here. The entire thing now is 9.6 million. You see that? That is for all the counties, for our local government to operate. That's what it is. So you are saying, well, give them time to explain. Mr. Namo is saying, what is there to explain? How can they explain 200,000 for each county for county development fund? What is there to explain? What will it do for even a county like Grand Cru, let alone talking about a giant-sized county like Mimba and Lofa? So you see what we're talking about? You have come to rescue us, but your proposals are not bold enough. Your proposals are not a departure from previous government. You're looking at 9.2%, 92% of the budget on recurring expenses and servicing debt. And then you have 7.5%, all right, for the improvement of the lives. That is $51.8 million. What can $51.8 million do to a population of over 5 million people, Mr. Namo? How is that ambition? What is there to explain? Because you are saying they need to explain. What can you explain to somebody that $51.8 million makes sense, all right, to improve the material condition of the people, compared to $640 million just for government bureaucracy?
What you just explained to us is more reason why there is something to explain.
Okay.
The government budget as it is does not reflect an effective empowerment of the people agenda. It does not reflect the president's vision of creating an effective local government. So there is explanation that is required. One of the things that they said in the campaign was that they were going to bring salary back to some regular what they had before. There's something there to explain. I think this president would do better in the explanation category, because just as you see a gap in the difference between the president vision that he projected and the budget, that discrepancy is has to be explained, and there has to be a hope. You explain the discrepancy, you explain what you're doing now, and then you put our hope by telling the people what you have ahead, and,
So,
and
Mr.
show them.
Mr. Blamo, you came to rescue me. All right. I'm in the middle of the ocean. I've been there for several hours in serious distress. I have not eaten. You got there with a helicopter, and now you want to rationalize, my man, how long you been here? You know, what has been the temperature here? And you think I care about that explanation? This is why you're telling us, Blamo.
You'd be surprised what the human mind, patience that the human mind can exercise if you understand why you're doing things.
I get your point, but remove us from the distress position first, and now you can tell us, hey, look, this is where we are. This is how we got here. This is where we're going. This is how long it would take because of these conditions. Then we will understand. But we are still in distress.
That's what you do when you're running an organization. When you're running a country of 5 million people, then the strategy is a little bit different.
Okay.
And what you call removal could be give them 1 year budget, and then let's explain what will follow after that budget. The president has to explain. We cannot allow the people to attach their own explanation to it. And there are a lot of reasons, a lot of justification for an explanation. And I think that the citizen will understand if they see something ahead. And that is what is not being portrayed. People they gotta keep hope alive. You have to tell the people why you're gonna catch them, so that they will show some patience for you.
You had some point there. You are saying, look, if you are a father, you don't have a job, you have to sit down with your family and say, look, Papa is not working.
Yes.
But I will get a job one day and things will be okay. But in the meantime, I'll be hustling, and I'll make sure that there's dry rice on the table. So it makes sense. But I
know you want to move on. Let me throw this in quickly. So yeah, I think Mr. Oblamo does have a point there about communicating. But here are some of the communication attempts by this government, right? We will order NSA, made it public. Then what happened? They pulled back. Didn't they? They did. So, and there are several other examples I could cite of communication. And I don't believe the problem we're having with this government, or that this government is suffering or experiencing, is the inability to explain what they're doing. They just don't have very much to explain to us. Tell us what they're doing. I mean, we all are looking across the country. If we see progress and they're not communicating with us, I think we all understand. But let's be honest with you, my dear brother. What is it that we can point to as a real major relief that has happened since January 22nd, 2024?
Thank you, gentlemen. Something I want us to talk about, Mr. Sam Wallow, who are credited for being an ardent follower of Focus on Liberia. And Sam, we want to commend you. You are here, even though you feel that we've been very, very critical. You even feel that we've been critical. He even feels that we hate the government. But he's always here. I must commend you, my brother. He believed that this government is doing very well. He always posting this laundry list, and he called these things achievement. Let me read them. He said, refresher on Boakai administration achievement. 96 million solar panel or solar farm approved, funded. Road rehabilitation commences with Budgetary to Manikama Highway. Assets recovery team actively recovering government missing assets. Financial audits initiated. 5 billion HPA investment announced. Asset declaration done. US and EU full support secured. Conflict retired military averted. Regular presidential press briefing. Regular cabinet meetings. Beer mountain protests dead. And he's saying these are achievements. So when an investment company in the country say, well, we're going to invest this, it's an achievement for the government. He says when the government, carries on its regular cabinet meeting, it is an achievement. When the presidential press secretary, whose job is to give press briefing weekly, it is an achievement. Let me give my take on this. This is what we call minimalism. Minimalism. I'm disappointed in Samuel to say that to have a press briefing is an achievement for a government. Wow. Samuel. And this is what you think going to take us somewhere? The government, there are some things you don't name yet. The government has awarded contracts, road contracts to contractors in a tune of 21 million United States out of Samuel. Let me help you. Because he's saying, well, why are you not discussing all the positives of the government? The government did so. $21 million road contracts being given to contractors. But now the legislature has no idea where that money came from.
Absolutely.
Now, whether bidding was done and announced, we don't know. Sam Wallow, that is business as usual. And you want me to celebrate that. And that is an achievement because, well, we gave the people the contracts for them to construct the roads. Now, whether the money being made available to these individuals, what people are pre-financing, there's not much clarity on these things. I mean, who doesn't want the Liberian government to succeed? But for you to say that, these are all achievements, when in fact some of these things have not even started, I don't know how you count achievements. So when I say, I'm entering graduate school today, that is an achievement. Entering graduate school, that is an achievement, Sam Wallow. Anyway, gentlemen, I just want to get your take because Sam Wallow has been on this mission of announcing the list of achievements by this government. Some of the things the government itself does not consider achievement, Sam Wallow said those are achievements.
People say when you've been bitten by a snake before, right? When you see worm, what do? You run, right?
Right.
He keeps on mentioning the HPX, visit, right, or whatever that was, right?
Yeah.
And the Front Page Africa did an analysis of what they're proposing, the $50 billion that they are proposing. It appears that the resources they're trying to invest the $50 billion for, it's not even worth $200 million, right? They did an analysis, and the guy they're asking, well, what is the purpose of putting so much money in when you're going to eventually get out far less? That's just one part of it. Then there is the multi-user agreement for the truck that is supposed to transport the ore. That there is a major problem with that from Mattel Steel and the rest of them. There is a contentious issue that has to be resolved. So this is just an announcement. I don't know how we should, coming from Abelmoff and all these other agreements that were introduced to us by the previous government, how he expects us to consider this an achievement, I don't get it. I know he's a very, very educated, very smart guy, but he seems to be, I don't want to say a fanatic, but he is in a hurry, to give this government a success that they haven't really earned. I mean,
an access declaration, he's calling it an achievement.
And how did they even go about it?
Declaration is an achievement.
Yeah. So I will be honest with you. I will be one of the first to say, you know what? Yes, I got to give them this. And on numerous occasions, we've done that. We've given them, we told them the fact that they brought out a 100-day roadmap. That was good. We didn't have that with the previous government. It took the previous government over 6 months. So we say, yeah, that was good. But to what extent they are judiciously and meticulously following this roadmap, I can't say that. He himself, I don't know where
they have not even completed that roadmap. It's still a draft. It's still a draft. But Sam Wallow thinks is an accomplishment.
He said it will
declare their asset. Boakai declared his asset. We don't know what he actually declared.
So he said the list will continue to grow. So are we celebrating just the construction of a list, or what is it? I mean, anybody can grow a list, right?
Yeah. So let's hear from Mr. Blambo. He is saying that we should give them some time here. You think Sam Wallow has a point here with the laundry list of things he's calling achievement?
I think Sam Wallow is a politician, and we have to when we support and we defend the government, we have to be objective sometimes, and we have to know who we're talking to. This is a country of citizens who are tired, frustrated, and have heard a lot of promises. So when you come out with this big statement, and they are now well thought of, and you put everything in the bucket and throw it at them, sometimes you get close to disrespecting the people, and then your effort to defend the president, it doesn't, you don't do justice to that effort. So Sembolo need to look at the what he considered to be achievement and really achieve the wordings and acknowledge that the government is struggling and the government intends to do better. People will understand when there's some sincerity in what you're saying. But there is a national disease when a president is just praised, no matter what to do. That is why our political culture has been giving us emperors instead of president. All these years, we call our president His Excellency. What does that expression represent? Some kind of king. We have our president appointing people in villages that he had never seen. And these things are just culture, our political culture. And nobody has taken the stand to say, no, this is wrong. So, and these are the hard decisions that the people have to make, because people that have power never give power back. And people who are around the president can be more sincere. I don't see sincerity in the expression, but that does not mean that the president has not made progress. I think the president is putting in efforts, and some of those efforts are in that statement. It's just that he muddled up with a lot of things that don't make sense. And I believe that the president needs to have a voice. He needs to articulate his vision for the country. He needs to have a dialogue with his people. He will get farther. And those people who are just trying to seek presidential greatness, the era of presidential greatness is gone. It came and left town.
Thank you.
Right now, the best path for this president is to stay with the people, empower the people. That way, his power, his greatness will come from.
Thank you.
Development cannot be gift from Morovia or gift from the president. We have to have the involvement of the people. We have to restore the God-given rights of the people to self-determination. And until people in power recognize that and start playing God in Morovia, we're in trouble.
Thank you, Mr. Blamo. And you know, I think Sam Wallo should remember that I hosted a show here, and these things being done by the government so far, I classify them as, you know, these are meaningful efforts, you know, and I raise all of these things I hear. These are efforts, and for Sam Wallo to be classifying them as achievement, and it's like he's not helping the government here. Why if HBS say we're leaving tomorrow? What will Sam Wallo say? That the achievement has failed? How can you have an achievement, you turn around and say the achievement has failed, right? And so, Sam, these are all efforts. Nothing, you know, has materialized yet to improve anything in our country. I urge that you stop calling them achievements. So if you are calling them achievement, then I have to help you here. Let classify the appointments the president making of achievements, because I have not seen any president to have done a list of individuals, you know, when it comes to appointments, because sometimes in a day they will release about 100 names. They're classified as achievements, Sam Wallo, right? Because these are the kind of achievements you think that this government is making. You appoint people that are achievement, all right? What are these people are qualified? What are they being able to deliver in the positions they've been appointed? Sam Wallo said, in as much as the president needs these individuals, some of them he doesn't know anyway. All right, some of them can even be removed by some people at the executive mansion without his knowledge. Yeah, those things are achievement. If the president declares his answer, he has not published it, Sam Wallo said that's an achievement. I mean, if there's an achievement, how come all the officials in the government now have not declared their answer? The president said, look, you have to follow my example. They have not done so. State idly by and does nothing about it. I mean, he set a bad example, declare and didn't publish, and it brings to the whole question of accountability and transparency. But something I want us to talk about to conclude on, gentlemen, is this president who promising no business as usual received a gift from former Speaker Buffer Chimba, and that gift is an ambulance. And I saw President Boakai came outside to receive a gift from Buffer Chimba ambulance. I don't know the cost of it, but that should be over probably 15,000 United States dollars. The Code of Conduct law is clear. You cannot receive a gift value more than $200. But the president came out. I mean, is that not business as usual? You think he needs explanation with that also? Because you are saying they didn't explain these things. Just to explain about you receiving gifts, $200.
I think you need explanation.
All right, so you have to carry on that explanation.
No,
that does not make sense. That is not a violation of the law.
No, the president is encouraging any effort that is designed to help the local communities. And Buffer Chimba seems to be heading in that direction. Whether the president was receiving those as a gift, whether it was in violation of policy, is something that we have to discuss further. But the gesture of the president was to encourage that people should be able to have self-help. People should come together to help themselves. The community should strive on its effort. So that's what the president was heading.
All right. Mr. Namwe, please have our brother here explain
this
thing. Explanation now, he's not even helping me here.
Right. So I am hoping that the president declared the ambulance because that's what the Code of Conduct calls for, and he turned it over to the fire service. I hope it's not being used for his private, use. But yeah, he should have declared that. I mean, from the very beginning, from his donation to our brothers and sisters who suffered the fire truck incident in Salala, I believe it was. Some $10 million Liberian dollars, and I think 200 bags of rice.
I think that was total to Bomb County, right?
Yeah, I think it was. I think so more there. So Yankee made so much noise about it, but where are we with that? Nowhere. The president just mobbed on that. Said nothing. And clearly, these are some of the things we're talking about. If you want to, set a tune and depart from business as usual, you have to really you got to lead by example. Besides the former speaker's gift, there was another group that came to give the president something else in his compound. I think that there were some other small little vehicles they brought or whatever it is. He's receiving these gifts and he knows exactly what the Code of Conduct says. Why is he not directing them straight to the agency where they're supposed to be, delivered? Yeah. And Buffer Chimba himself, being a former speaker, he knows the Code of Conduct. Why would he take the ambulance and take it to the president? He knew where to take it. He could have given it to the government as opposed to giving it to the president, But I don't know what to say about that, my brother. Clearly, this is the violation, and it is, of course, business as usual. Same old, same old.
Same old. So, gentlemen, let us conclude based on all we have assessed so far. In your judgment, is it fair to say business as usual has surfaced in this government, or there's still more time or more things to look at before we can come to that conclusion? Mr. Blamo, you go ahead. You are still saying maybe there needs some explanation. Is it fair to say now that business as usual has surfaced, on Boakai's watch? He promised that there will be no business as usual.
I believe that it's too early to form a solid conclusion that the government in operation now is a government of business as usual. However, there are efforts that look that way, and this government needs to make a little bit more effort in explaining to the people or starting a dialogue with the people.
Mm.
The silence of the government is creating multiple opportunity for misinterpretation. And the more silence the government remain, it will be harder to change the image. Once the people have a solid image of what the government is, and even if it's not correct, perception is reality. So if you don't start influencing the public agenda, the public discussion now, it takes roots. It will be harder for this president to change it after 1 year. And about 2 years, he will be a limp dog president. He has to jump up and talk about what he wants for this country, where he carrying the country to keep hope alive. And at this point, he's making some progress. He is gearing up for the race. And it's taking a little bit long, and he needs to be a little bit faster. And I believe that Joe Boakai, there are two presidents who became, two people who became president with experience. And that was Talbot and Joe Boakai. And with this level of experience, the more you are giving, the more is expected. And the place he took the country from, the rescue, what those people were running in that rain for, create an urgency. And the people who he's appointing have to recognize that this is just not a normal government. These are not normal times. They can't lay back. So there need to be a sense of urgency created, and there need to be accurate expression of where they are taking this country. That's my suggestion for them.
Thank you. Victor Namer, you're closing.
Yeah, so I like to cut him a little slack here and say, you know, we all remember Robert Saliv and the other Saliv, all in government. We remember Chucky and all these people. But so far, I think his son, I don't know him. I think it's Joseph Jr., but they call him Jojo. I don't think he's anywhere in the government yet. So we got to give it to him for that. There seems to be still a little bit of restraint, even though his nephew, Jake Kabakoli, is all over the government, all over the place, you know. But at least there seems to be a little bit of restraint there. But then again, we got people that Moi, you know, appointing his wife on the LPRC board. So, and he is the president of the Republic of Liberia. So the buck starts with him. So that for me is business as usual. And then all of these violations, tenure people with tenure, you know, being replaced knowingly, intentionally, causing a ruckus. And most of these people have already gone to court. Either they're going to reinstate them or they're going to cost this government a lot of money to pay them off to leave. Not only that, they're out in the street now. The whole asset recovery thing, for me, that was not my imagination of how it would have been executed. You know, I don't know. They're wearing these vests out in the streets and arresting taxi cab, you know. Yeah, we're talking people who stashed up millions and millions of dollars in foreign offshore accounts and all of these. I hope those are the things they are focusing on. Maybe they just wanted to make a statement. I don't know. But that whole thing of, you know, setting up roadblocks and taking Finabono's purported taxi cab company and, you know, Patrick Sudway cab. I'm not sure if that really that's what we imagine for the asset recovery. So we hope that, you know, they will structure it right and get it right. But, you know, on the whole, I think this is really business as usual for the most part. The cronyism is in this government. The nepotism is in this government. You know, the waste, fraud, and abuse is in this government. Is rearing its head in all over the place. The president is spending money like there is no tomorrow. You know, even if we just look at the $4,500 recent expenditure, if you give that to only the 34 or 31 legislators that voted for Richard Coon, that's $153,000. But if you give it to all of the legislators, that's another $365,000. You seem to have a thing with $365,000. The same $365,000 you give to Tape, whose report we haven't seen yet. So all of these things are going on, and they don't suggest to us that there is a complete decoupling from business as usual. And it seems, if anything, this is probably even worse than business as usual. And we're hoping that they will realize this and apply the brakes. You understand me? And say, you know what? We thought this is how we should have done it, but from all indications, this is not working. We're going to turn this ship around and move in the opposite direction. They still have time to do that. We hope they will, and we'll continue to call them out. They will not like it. We understand that, and they will call us names and whatever it is. That's okay. We're not doing it for them. We're doing it for Liberia. There are 5 point something million people who depend on this government to succeed, and we want them to succeed. And so we will hold their feet to the fire. If they do the right thing, we will praise them. Until they do, we'll continue to call them out. Thanks a lot for the show.
Mr. Namba, thank you. Mr. Blambo, thank you, gentlemen. And I will conclude that this government is smelling with business as usual in every area. This government is smelling with business as usual. President Boakai got elected. From the office of president-elect came a letter to NASCA requesting cars for the use of the president-elect. I mean, who is president-elect and executing governmental functions in no time? It shouldn't be Boakai who has served in government for that long. How that is not business as usual. And now there is evidence to that effect that his now Minister of Presidential Affairs Minister, who was the head of the office of the president-elect, then wrote that letter. He's yet to act. He's quiet on it. I doubt he will take action. That is business as usual. It's like, someone in we are government was accused of doing something sinister, and we are sat there and did absolutely nothing. This is business as usual. All right? We're talking about investigations. Money was made available for the inaugural of Mr. Boakai. It became a national embarrassment. The microphone could not work. We are yet to get the report from that investigation, and we are yet to hear action being taken by the president. Mr. Blamo, this is business as usual. Our nation was disgraced. We have foreign guests. They were sweating. No water for them to drink on the platform. The president collapsed. He could have died. The people he put in charge let him down. And that report is nowhere to be seen before talking about action. That is business as usual. Assets declaration. Wia could not declare his assets 7 months into office. When he declared, he did not publish. Boakai declared few weeks into his government in violation of the law, and he is yet to publish it. I don't know of the number of government employees who have declared their assets. I know Emmanuel Ure Yakba will declare before taking office, and now there is this stay order on him. He can't work, and few others did. But the entire Boakai cabinet, I would say 99.9% of them have not declared their assets. If they did, then we don't know. Why shouldn't we know? Why should it be a secret? Is that a departure from the past? I don't know of officials in our government who declare their assets and published it for us to see. I can't remember any. Neither can I remember any from the Boakai's administration, folks from the United Party side. Yakba Wuro is from LPP. Maybe a few others did. Amara Kona is the United Party's guy. He has not declared his assets. And he's running all over the place, pretending that he's kind of accountability hub. He is a lawmaker who has failed to declare his asset. And he's from the United Party, and he supported Joseph Boakai. So tell me, what is it that you see that is not business as usual here? Now, at the NPA, the guy we are told bought his position, and I'm saying that, and he can quote me, I'm told he bought his position. Now, we get information. And this guy is appointing family members at the NBA to the full knowledge of this president and this government. They have done absolutely nothing about that. That is business as usual, my friend. Now they have come up with a budget that allot 92% of the budget on recurring expenses and just 7.5% to improve the material conditions of our people. Just $3 million for all the counties, whereas the office of the president gets more than $5 million to run his office. And the president now is supposed to be an agricultural guy. They took the agricultural budget from just $4 million to $5 million. That's just $1 million they added. How is that bold? How are we going to feed our people with that? And you know what it depends on now? Donors will come and help us. The almighty donors will come and help us. This is not a departure from the past. This is business as usual. There are 20 people on the basis of, or they are from my county, or well, they're part of Unity Party, or they are part of the coalition, whether they qualify or not, whether they are suited for the position or not, in as much as they were sent by Prince Johnson, they get appointed. What action can the president take against the guy at MPA? He bought his job. And so he's going to make sure he gets his profit. Business as usual smells everywhere. Everywhere. Now, the gentleman at the GSA, he's making effort to get rid of all the ghost names. And now, individuals being appointed, they're carrying their own people. They are appointing them. And at the MPA, they say this guy is allotting fabulous salaries to his family members or kinsmen that he has taken over there. Can we get an investigation? And so, my friends and fellow Liberians, business as usual is the order of the day. This promise that there will be no business as usual is a lie. It's a bluff, and it was a lie that we were told. Business as usual is everywhere. That is how I see it, and I owe no one apology for what I say is just the plain truth. This is how we will conclude this edition of Tough Talking Thursday. If you came to not talk tough, I came to talk tough, and I have talked my own, and it is time for Liberian people to be the judge. The song says, we are all Liberians, and gentlemen, that song is taking us home. Until we see you again, we are focused on Liberia, and this is how we do it. Accountability, truth-telling, and nothing else but truth-telling. Thank you, and bye-bye. Enjoy the song, We Are All Liberians.
We are Liberians.